In today's episode, I'll be giving my review and reaction to the 2007 film 310 to Yuma. So let's dive right into 310 to Yuma. Do something, man. People are questioning you. Shut up. Shut up. Okay, yep, do that. Sure, guys. Stupid and dumb. Just an idiot. Get your shit together, son. Fuck it. I loved it. Welcome to the DubCast. 310 to Yuma was released on August 21st, 2007. The genre of this film was a Western. The runtime is 2 hours and 2 minutes. The budget is from $48 to $55 million. They don't have an exact amount for it. The director is James Mangold, who also directed Logan, very good film that I watched in the past. So, we'll see what I think of this one, but Logan was pretty solid. This movie stars Russell Crowe, Christian Bale, Peter Fonda, Gretchen Mol, Ben Foster, Dallas Roberts, Alan Tudyk, Vanessa Shaw, and Logan Lerman. So if you're new to the channel, I give my overarching review, give a score, compare that score amongst other movies I've reviewed up until this point, and then we will get into my thoughts and reactions to things as they occurred throughout the movie. So starting out with my overarching review, having been someone who's not really a fan of Westerns, not because I don't like them, I just haven't really seen a lot of Westerns. I mean, if you consider Brokeback Mountain a Western, that's something I watched in the past couple months, but this isn't really my type of movie to, seek out and see that, oh, there's a new Western, I need to go see it, I was recommended this movie by a couple of friends, and, I think this one was a pretty okay movie. I thought, a lot of Westerns are from a long time ago. So this being more recently from 2007, I thought maybe it'd be more my kind of speed or style of movie that I'm looking to watch. Obviously, I did not know the people that were in this movie, Christian Bale and Russell Crowe. So that once I was watching the movie, I was happy to see them because they're two great actors. Also, their dynamic in this movie was a really good back and forth, and I thought both of them were able to play their parts really well. Most of the movie I thought ended up being pretty exciting. As someone who just finished playing Red Dead 2 in the past year, this brought me right back to being in Red Dead 2 and that setting and time period. I believe it's around the same exact time period as Red Dead 2, and you can definitely see a lot of parallels, not in the story, but just different setting pieces like the bars and riding horses, but like just kind of that time period. It brought me right back to that. So I do have a nice place in my heart for that type of setting. So that was cool to be put back in that world. Essentially, I will say some of the scenes I thought were a little bit slow, and I didn't think the movie was fully engaging at times. I thought there was kind of some stuff that was happening that was not really the most interesting stuff in the world. I also thought some of the decisions made by one of the some of the decisions, I believe is what I wrote, made by characters didn't make a lot of sense. Specifically the ending. I guess he wanted to show William that his dad was a hero, and by the respect he earned with him throughout, that he was going to go to jail on purpose, but that's really wasn't alluded to at all in the movie. I thought that was a little bit shallow in the way that they do that by the end of it, but maybe that's just my opinion. His gang is insane. I thought it would be a little better if we were able to see a little more personality from the second in command, but maybe we did get a decent amount. He's just a loyal soldier. That's kind of his baseline of a character, but I thought that kind of opposing group throughout the movie would be cool to get a little more background on them, little personality there. Maybe we can understand where they're coming from a little bit more, but not really much depth to that character group. The set building, I said, was nice as well. Definitely felt like we were right back in that time period. I thought that they did a really good job with this scenery and everything, so good job on that. I think this is a hard one for me to score, really. I did like most of it, but there is just some stuff that holds it back. Not the movie for everyone, I will say. It is a Western, so if you don't like Westerns and you don't like violence, especially gun violence, I would stay away from this one. But I'm landing this movie at a 7.9. I thought this was a pretty interesting film, and I'm glad to have watched it. I feel like I say that for every review, but it was a different type of movie than I'm used to, and I didn't hate the experience. Like I really did like this movie a little bit, especially Christian Bale and Russell Crowe's characters back and forth. I thought that was kind of the driving force of the movie, obviously, but that really was something holding it up for me. I'm interested to see if maybe there are other westerns that I like out there. But if you're not a western person, definitely don't watch this. I did like it enough to give it a 7.9, not quite an 8, but I did really enjoy this film. So, where does this compare amongst other movies we've reviewed up until this point? 7.9 gives it number 16 of 34 movies. This ties with Dead Poet Society and Mr. and Mrs. Smith at a 7.9. Of those three 7.9s, I do like 310 to Yuma the best of those three. So this technically is not as good as the other Western we reviewed, which is Brokeback Mountain. I gave that an 8.2. I thought that story was a little more compelling. I thought the actors played a little bit better of a part in that one. Maybe a crazy opinion, I don't know, but I did like Brokeback Mountain a little bit better. So yeah, this lands at the top of the 7 columns. Obviously, highly our highest 7 you can get. There's now many 7s and 8s, so the good recommendations keep coming from my friends on the internet, so I'm really glad to see that. This lands right in the middle of that. So yeah, 16 to 34 is top half, 7.9 for 310 to Yuma. So now let's go right into my thoughts and reactions. So I did watch this movie on a train. I think looking at my notes now, it is a little bit, maybe a little bit less, so maybe a little bit less of an in-depth review, but we do have a lot of notes regardless, so let's dive right in. So obviously the opening of the movie, we're with Christian Bale's character and his character's named Dan. Their barn gets burned down right at the beginning of the movie. William is his oldest son. I believe he's around 14 years old. He's pissed about losing the feed. Obviously the barn is burning and they can't do anything about it. And yeah, I'm not sure the methods, like I'm trying to remember what that group was initially. That I think it was a debt collector group. Obviously I'm going to probably draw a lot of parallels to Red Dead Redemption 2, so if you haven't played that, probably skip this review, but he seems like they seem like a kind of like a Strauss group, like just scamming to collect money, and once he doesn't pay, they got to go, burn his barn because Dan's not able to pay the debt that he owes. So we also learn that Dan doesn't have a leg and seemingly owes a debt. So something happened to him where he lost his leg. Obviously this comes up as a bigger plot point later on in the story, but right off the bat you kind of understand that they're in a debt. They are kind of one of those needy families that don't have everything right. They're just trying to make an honest living for themselves, have a nice farm, but these people coming in the middle of the night, by the way, which is kind of fucked up. Obviously there's really no time to burn a barn down, but middle of the night, really, dude? This is hard times for this family. So we have our introduction to Ben Wade and his gang, played by Russell Crowe. Right off the bat, they're trying to rob this wagon with a lot of money in it. He uses the lost cattle from the fire at Dan's place to step in front of the wagon and stop that wagon from keeping. Obviously they're chasing the wagon, it just is going to keep going, but they put the cattle there so it can't navigate and keep moving on. I thought that was a really genius strategy. Why did no one ever do that in Red Dead? Just bring a bunch of cows or horses with you and put them in. I guess maybe horses would scram. Why didn't the cows are just like, fuck it, I'll eat a wagon right now, they don't give a fuck. But I thought that was kind of a genius idea. Obviously this wagon has a Gatling gun in the back. It's very protected because they're protecting a lot of money. But that's no use for Ben Wade's gang. There's about 4 to 5 sheriff's people trying to protect this money. Ben Wade's got like 20 people. He does lose some people. My question for maybe just a general time period question of that would be like, all these men were just willing to die just to get a quick cash grab. Like, I'm not questioning it just specifically in this movie, just in all of like this gang stuff back in the day. It's like, yeah, you could easily just die and that's it, like that's your life. You just were trying to get an extra, rob a bank or whatever. I mean, I don't really get it, but different mindsets. This was over 100 years ago at this point, so what do I know? So they are able to rob the wagon. One of Ben's men screws up and gets taken captive by the one sheriff who lives. Ben has like quick draw perk to max a million, just kills his own man because he fucked it up. He spares the sheriff, which I thought was interesting. Obviously, back in those days, there's no cell phones, so you can't call anybody. You can't write a letter. Even it's like you either got to be there in person or you're not there in person. So I think his message was to just save the sheriff, have him go back and tell the story of Ben Wade. His legend continues. They know they robbed him and send them on their way. So, of course, who's pursuing them but Dan, looking for his cattle. I thought this was a pretty chill interaction. Obviously this is only a couple minutes in the movie, so I didn't think anything drastic was going to happen, but Ben Wade is very nice to Dan. He just is like, Dan's like, I want my cattle back. You used them to friggin' stop a wagon. And Ben's just like, yeah, I'll take that, or you can have your cattle back. I just need your horses. Which my question was, how are you going to get the cattle back without the horses? I'm sure that was the same question crossing Dan's mind, but it's just a long walk, maybe. Because it was only a couple hours, probably, since the cattle left the ranch due to the fire. So obviously this is the start of the interesting dynamic playing out between Dan and Ben Wade throughout the movie. So he's going to have to give his horses away in order to get the cattle back. We have Wade's gang now heads to town, and he has complete El Riz trying to approach this girl. He just forces her to kiss him. I thought this was, even for 1920 standards, he was just kind of forcing himself on the girl. I didn't like it at all. But she seemingly likes him, and by the end of the movie, they have like a rapport. So what do I know about 1920s talking to girls? I just thought that this was kind of an awkward scene where he's like, boys, get out of here. It's just the bartender in there. He's like, you like to sing? Yeah. And he's like, all right, I'm going to kiss you in like 2 minutes, and you're going to like it. Maybe it is Ben Wade, so he just has infinite aura, using brain rot terms again. Yeah, so Dan is able to help Ben be captured by the sheriff. I don't know if this was intentional or not intentional for him to try and get Ben back. I don't know if he knew the sheriff was even alive at that point. Obviously, Ben and his crew leave the area, so Dan's still in the area looking for his cattle. I'm guessing it would be intentional because, we see that proven throughout the movie that Dan has this kind of higher moral standard. So I'm assuming he actually did want to bring Ben in. So having told the sheriff this, they're now kind of organizing this party to go to the bar, which they do, and capture Ben at the bar while he's with the girl. And all his other gang's just outside. They leave. Kind of an interesting way it plays out because it seems like Ben Wade has not really been able to be captured to this point. So they're just kind of easy to walk him in, but obviously he's in one of his weak areas, talking to women, guard down. He's captured. So we have the sidekick coming in to save the day. I couldn't even tell you this guy's name. He's just the sidekick, the blonde guy. He's pretty cool though. He comes in to save the day, but can't do much. They're with the sheriff and the police. Granted, the police in the early 1900s was not that great of a force, but they're doing enough to stave off the gang because it's just the sidekick there, not the whole gang. So he's going to basically just follow along with them as they transport Wade. They're going to eventually try and take him on this 310 to Yuma train, obviously hence the name of the movie. But yeah, this is an interesting way that this played out with, you have the sidekick just like riding along the transport, and like no party's gonna do anything with anything other, but they know exactly what the other party's doing. So I thought that was a pretty interesting way that played out. So we learn a little bit more about Dan's backstory as they head to his house. He's had a bad life. They're poor with no money. He's tired of seeing his boys go hungry. He wants to just get some money. That's his whole ploy with this Ben Wade thing, is to try and get some money so he can live the life he wants to, and his family can live the life that they want to, and he doesn't have to worry about money. He can just bring in this criminal and be okay. So yeah, this now having been at the dinner table with a couple of sheriff's men and Dan and his family, Ben taunts him about his wife. Yeah, I don't know what they want you to think of Ben Wade. Obviously, I think they want you to think well of him at the end and think he's like this good guy now because he decides to go to jail. But throughout the movie, he's just scum and like he's trying to like. I thought the wife might go for it. Um, yeah, I don't. Well, at this point, they're way past the dinner table. He's taunting him like on by the campfire, and who's there but William? Shows up, the son. Why I don't know why bro was so motivated. Like as a 14-year-old, I'd have been like, "Fuck that! I'm staying at home. You have fun at work. I'm sleeping." But William's very motivated to help his dad and bringing in Ben Wade. So I don't know how he made his way all the way out there in the dark, but be it as it may, William has now joined the transporting party. So while they're all laying around the campfire at night, there's a man named Tucker who's there with them, and he wouldn't let Ben Wade sleep. Obviously, Ben Wade being a criminal has to be a kind of, he doesn't feel like he should be able to sleep due to all the lives he's took and all the crimes he's committed. So he's just going to keep singing and singing. We kind of go drift off with Dan and William. We wake up and Tucker is dead. Wade kills him. He stole the little fork from dinner and just kept stabbing it over and over. I'd like to see how that scene played out, considering Tucker was armed and maybe he just drifted off. I don't know, but kind of weird that Ben's just able to kill him so easily, especially around the campfire, and then nothing really happens to him as well. They need him alive, which I don't know if they ever explain why they need him alive. Maybe just to prove that they have a good force, and bringing in Ben Wade would be like a crazy pull. But why wouldn't they just kill him at one point or another? I don't know. Maybe he's booked on the train. I don't know. I thought maybe just after that, it's like how many more of us are we gonna lose if we're just gonna let this happen? But R.I.P. Tucker, we'll keep it moving. So they essentially their whole big plan was to have a decoy coach that was sent in front of the sidekick to make him think that the that Ben Wade was in that coach. That plan gets exposed pretty quickly, and he's going to burn the sidekick's going to burn the guard in there to ask where Wade is. And then of course after he does that, he just tells him the truth anyway. I don't know what the deal was with that. Like, obviously, it's a gang member. Like, it's not even Ben Wade where you have like a chance of being, like, being convinced to do the right thing, or like there's a chance he's just like, fuck it, I'll do the right thing. This guy was never gonna help you. Obviously, you don't know that. You want to spare your life, but him just giving up the plan and then just getting burnt was like, this is just not gonna go well for Dan and crew. And this whole movie, basically, like as time goes on, like the chances of them actually getting Ben Wade on the 310 to Yuma just keep going down and down. And this was just like another one of those plot points. So we have Byron. I believe he is the original sheriff who was shot by Ben Wade in the original robbery. So he's got his alone time with Ben Wade. They're kind of either, I forget if they're walking alone or they're walking with the group. I believe they were walking with the group, kind of. So Byron brings up his mother and father. So guess what? Ben Wade just instantly murks Byron. He gets all the guns to be put on the ground after that. So I guess they were with the group, which I don't know how he has complete ownership of the situation. Maybe he took Byron's gun. I'm kind of forgetting the scene at the moment, but another person dead. It seems like Ben Wade is pretty chill, but when you just irk him in some or any way, he's had enough of you and he can just go beast mode whenever he wants. So you wonder, what was what was his motivation for not doing that just the entire time? I guess you could feed into that. Oh, he's a good guy, and he just wanted Dan to have a satisfaction. Like eventually, he was gonna let him have the satisfaction of bringing him in. I don't know. I feel like he could have just escaped at any point. Like I've said, his motivations are really hard to figure out throughout the whole movie, and like I feel like the end even is a little shallow because you don't even understand why he would go swing that way. But I guess he could have done more. He makes them all drop his gun here. But who's here to point a gun at him but William, the 14-year-old? I guess I was wrong about I guess this is the time he shows up. Or, no, he was there earlier. I'm like, my brain's fogging about where William was. But regardless, William's here to save the day. He points his gun at Wade, so they still are going to keep him captive. At this point, there's maybe one or two more people with Dan and William. So while this is happening, Dan is retaken Wade. They are ambushed by seemingly Apache people. Those are the people they keep talking about throughout the whole movie, being kind of the off-screen antagonist of the movies. These Apache people who will not move off their land and just keep fighting people. So while they are attacked by them, Wade just goes off, killing all of them, and then he knocks out Dan and leaves. So they've lost the plot. They've lost Ben. I don't know. Like I said, it just keeps going downhill and downhill for Dan and his son and this crew. But unfortunately for Wade, he goes to a mining camp, and he's captured by a separate group of sheriffs there, watching, I believe, Chinese people build the railroad. Could be wrong on that. But they have to fight their way to get the reward. Because now Dan's group has pulled up. They are like, hey, that's our prisoner. Can you just give him to us? We're putting him on the 310 to Yuma. But ultimately, Dan and his crew is going to prevail. They still have Wade, of course. So guess who comes to the mining station shortly after Dan and his crew depart? Wade's gang and the sidekick. They finally caught up after being away from most of the middle of the movie. So they meet up with the other group who they classify as a posse, so maybe this was like a fake sheriff group. They're just scamming those people that are working for them, and the sidekick is just gonna kill them. They're just irrelevant to the story, honestly, because they're dead now. But yeah, that was a smart move. Like, those guys probably would want the reward too, so it's like, might as well get rid of them and keep this on a 1-versus-1 group setting, not have this extra complicated factor in it. Granted, you're taking lives, and we can talk about the moral of killing people, but that's not this podcast. So we have, now that the group's only down to a little bit of people, Wade tries to buy Dan out to let him go. At this point, obviously you see why Dan just has so much pride in himself and what his mission is. Like, he wouldn't take any amount of money, but I do think that this would not be the worst thing in the world to take the buyout, especially considering there's only a small amount of people left with them that would even be able to witness the tale. Obviously, Dan's pride, especially with his son being there, is going to overtake, so he's not going to allow this to happen. But I thought this was a pretty interesting offer, and maybe Wade should have done this just right at the beginning, before any of this, all the extracurricular and extra parties got involved. Granted, doesn't work out. So now the gang has finally caught up to them in a town. They're in the bridal suite of a hotel. They have an extra sheriff group now. I believe there's 6 of them. What will happen while he's held up there? They're kind of just staking him out, and this just becomes a cat and mouse game of what will happen. So the bonus marshals that were brought in to protect Ben Wade and help out Dan and crew give up. They say enough is enough. I'd like to leave alive. So they go out with their guns up. We're done. We quit. We're walking out on this. But they get mowed down anyway. So one of the whole moral messages of this, and this is gonna speak out to me in a movie I just watched as well. But it's like, you're gonna die anyway, so it's like, might as well go out guns blazing. Like, these guys weren't gonna spare you. They're just gonna let sheriffs walk out and walk into the street. Like, I thought that was a pretty dumb decision by the sheriffs at the end to do that. But, you give up on the cause, you're dead. I don't feel terrible for him. Like, that was a pretty poor move. So now it's really William, Dan, and Butterfield. He's kind of been along the story. He's not really the most important character, but he's the last one with them, helping them guard Ben Wade. So he sees everything transpiring. He's like, I'm out too, but I'm not going to leave this place because I know I'll die. I just want to see what happens, and hopefully I'll spare my life. It's like, dude, just take a gun and let's go. Like, this is like a standoff. A lot of people are going to die regardless. So we have Charlie. He starts shooting the other guns while Ben and Dan is like, we're going, bro. And Ben's like, fine, I'll help you. So Charlie starts shooting the other guns as they shoot at Ben and Dan, because the sidekick is asking the townspeople to now help with taking out Dan and taking out his crew and helping with Ben. They'll give him a reward if they are able to get Ben successfully. So now you have the whole town outside this building. And so I believe Charlie may be the sidekick or just a side character. He's the one who starts shooting the other guns. So now you neutralize all those other third parties. And Ben and Dan make their escape out. Because now those third parties don't know who's who. They start shooting at Ben and not Dan. Charlie's like, we got to take care of those bodies too. So now just fucking mass shooting is occurring at this town just because there's a prisoner there. But whatever, that's not the point. So Ben and Dan have a confrontation. Ben could choke him out and kill him, but he holds off after Dan tells him his backstory. The reason why Dan lost his leg, his gang was, or not his gang, he was in the military and he was in retreat. He was shot by his own man and then lost his leg. He never wants to tell his son that story. He wants his son to think he's a boss and a hero. So that's why he's been carrying on with this mission. It helps add into his motivation and his pride. So I believe that started aligning for me. That at least made some sense with Dan's character. So we have a shootout in town. Somehow Dan has prevailed through all this. They're just like going like Mission Impossible mode, just like somehow dodging every shot. And, you know, good for them. They do it. There's the train, the 310 to Yuma train shows up. Dan is shot out as Jack gets on the train. Ben didn't want him to die. I don't know who Ben is. My brain is melting. Ben Wade did not want Dan to die. Fuck, I can't believe I just said that. Anyways, Ben didn't want Dan to die, but Dan is shot out, and William had let out the cattle. Call back to the first scene. He was the one who fucked it up and let them out, so I don't know what that relevance was, but he tells his dad that, I think. So we have Ben is finally free now. It's only William, a dying Dan. He consoles him. His gang's like, come back to us, Ben. We need you. And nope. Ben decides he's going to quick draw and kill all of his former gang instantly and get right back on the train after William decides not to shoot him at the end. So justice is served. Everybody in the middle dies, basically, besides Butterfield and William. Ben gets on the 310 to Yuma. He's going to prison. Cool ending. I did really like the ending. It just felt like it was a little bit shallow on how Ben is all of a sudden going to turn. Like, I guess that story was the thing that put him over the edge, but I don't know. I feel like he didn't really have an edge. I thought he was always just going to try and go back to his gang and leave and live that kind of mischievous life. But nope, he's headed off to prison. He's going to atone for his sins. Hopefully, maybe he'll just break him out again, but his gang's all dead. So yeah, thought this was an interesting story. I really like this. You know, for a Western, I kind of always had a lower opinion of Westerns in my head of like, this is not going to be a good movie, but I enjoyed this. So if you want to get into Westerns, this could be a good place for you to start. Christian Bale and Russell Crowe kill it. So what were your guys' thoughts on 310 to Yuma? Did you like it? Did you hate it? What would you score it? Is my score too high, too low, just right? Let me know in the comments. Leave a like, leave a dislike, leave a subscribe. We're at 65 strong in the DubCast. So happy with how things are going. So I appreciate anyone who's taken the time to subscribe and or like or review any of the videos. More movie reviews in the way. Next one will be Brothers with Tobey Maguire and Jake Gyllenhaal. We'll have a lot of thoughts on that one. Besides that, expect the weekly Survivor episodes, weekly NFL streams. Not sure when this one's coming out, so I can't really speak to what is happening at the time. I know this will be a crowded week with UFC 310 preview as well. It's just jam-packed week this week, so this will probably come out on the weekend. That being said, episode 100 maybe came out. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to do it. Probably not going to do anything for that, but we're at 100 episodes. Started 8 months ago at 100 episodes, so the content stays flowing, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, be easy.